Buffalo Trace. How is this, which is the same as this, which is also the same as this? Well, sit back, grab a sip of your favorite Buffalo Trace bourbon, and let's find out. What is going on, everybody? Nathan here with the Everyday Drinker, and he has a brand new video. Today, we're going to be talking about Buffalo Trace and all of the subtle differences in all of their bourbons that I can give you the knowledge that I think that I have. Now, like I said, make sure you guys grab a sip of your favorite Buffalo Trace whiskey, sit back, relax, and let's get into this video. If you find anything helpful or informational about this video, make sure you guys drop that like, smash that subscribe button, and let me know what that was down in the comment section below. So let's dive right into this, right? Buffalo Trace has 3 bourbon mash bills. That's it. They only have 3. Now, they have a rye, but we're talking about their bourbons, and I have all 3 of their mash bills right here in front of me. We have their low rye mash bill, we have their high rye mash bill, and we have their wheated mash bill. Now, these 3 bottles right here are technically their bottom tier of each of those mash bills. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into mash bill number 1. So on the bar top right now, I have 8 of my Buffalo Trace mash bill number 1 bottles of bourbons, from lowest tier to what I believe to be highest tier of mash bill number 1. These are all the exact same whiskey inside the bottle, just done a little bit differently. Now, Buffalo Trace's mash bill number 1 is what they consider to be their low rye mash bill. So Buffalo Trace doesn't really give us all the information about what is exactly their mash bill, but we do speculate that the low rye mash is at least 10% or less rye in their mash bill. So all of these are going to be that mash bill number 1. So Buffalo Trace itself is going to be bottled at 90 proof. And then we step up to the Eagle Rare 10 year. This is going to be also 90 proof, but you get the 10-year age statement in the big bold letters on the bottle, which lets you know that this has some more subtleties in it and it's aged for at least 10 years. So for that, you would expect it to be a little bit more flavorful than your typical Buffalo Trace, which is, again, not told how old it usually is, but around that 6 to 8 year range. Now, moving in on the bar, we've got the E.H. Taylor. Now, I've got 2 E.H. Taylors on the bar. These are both the exact same mash bill, again, but they're 2 different bottles. This one right here is the E.H. Taylor small batch. Now, this is bottled at 100 proof. It is bottled in bond. If we don't know what bottled in bond is an act that was in place to help with the bourbon industry. It is got to be bottled at 100 proof, at least 4 years old, and then also aged in a bonded warehouse. So that is what this bad boy is. Next up, we've got Stagg Junior. Stagg Juniors are popping up a little bit more readily available right now, but this is where you are starting to get into barrel proof Buffalo Trace. This is absolutely wonderful juice in my personal opinion. You can't go wrong with Stagg Juniors of any batch. Yes, older batches can technically be a little bit better than the newer ones, but these newer batches are still pretty darn good in my personal opinion. Now, over here on my right, we've got the harder to find bottles. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why do I have 2 Stagg Juniors on the bar top? Well, this right here, this is a Stagg Junior store pick. Now, this is the only way that you can get a single barrel proof bottle of Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 1. That's right. That's the only way you can get a single barrel proof, is if you do a Stagg Junior store pick or a group pick or something along those lines. This is going to be really, really good. They're harder to come by. Most of these are going to be a little bit higher in proof. This one specifically is 137.9 proof. I've seen some of them in that hazmat range, which, if you don't know what hazmat is, that's over 140 proof. So those are some hot boys, but they're absolutely delicious. Now, moving in on the bar, we have the E.H. Taylor barrel proof. Now, this is not going to be bottled in bond. It's not going to say bottled in bond on the label because it's not bottled at 100 proof. It's bottled at barrel proof. So these are going to be limited batches, one batch a year, whereas the Stagg Juniors, which you could technically say they're the same thing, but they're different because they're aged in different warehouses in different areas at the distillery. And we also get speculation that the Stagg Juniors are in that 6 to 7 year range, whereas the E.H. Taylors are in that 7 to 9 year range. Now, these are going to be once a year releases. These are going to now be 3 to 4 releases. So these are a little bit more limited than the Stagg Juniors. I personally like the flavor profile of the E.H. Taylor a little bit more than the Stagg Juniors. And then we step up into the big dogs of the mash bill number 1. We've got the BTAC series, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, the limited release in November, December, January time where you're getting raffles. You got to break your leg to get one of these. But we've got the Eagle Rare 17 year and the George T Stagg. Now, these are the exact same mash bill as everything else. But this one right here is bottled at 101 proof, and this one right here is bottled at barrel proof. So we're taking the 15-year or more barrels and blending them together to get this bottle right here. And this one right here, we're taking 17-year-old or higher barrels, blending them together, and then proofing it down to 101 proof. So you could technically say that the George T Stagg is just barrel proof Eagle Rare, but they're two different things, because this one right here, the Eagle Rare, goes through a chilled filtration process, which takes out a lot of the floating debris inside of a bottle so that it doesn't cloud up within transport, within temperature differences and everything. Some people say that takes away from the flavor. I personally think that this Eagle Rare 17 year drinks a little bit better than George T Stagg, but I could be in the minority on that one. Now, if you guys are still watching this, let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions about mash bill number 1. I'd be happy to answer them. But without further ado, let's get into mash bill number 2. So as you can see on the bar top, we have a lot less of the Buffalo Trace mash bill number 2. We've got 3 bottles of this stuff, but it is still darn good juice. And most of the mash bill number 2 consists of one brand only. And that brand, I do have 2 of them right here on the bar, and those are the Blanton's single barrels. Now, you've got all your specialty Blantons that you can see all over secondary markets and stuff like that, but the main bottle is going to be this one right here with the tan paper wrapping and the bronze horsey on top. Now, these are going to be bottled at 93 proof. They are all going to be single barrel bourbons, which means that that bourbon in that bottle came from one singular barrel. They then proof it down to 93 proof. You will see what the dump date of that barrel is, and the rick house, or the rick number, and the warehouse, which is always H, and the barrel bottle number will also be on the writing as well on that paper. Now, fun thing about Blanton's, if you do not know, I don't know if you will be able to see it on the horsey, but all of the horsies are going to be in a different running sequence that is seen through a race. Now, every Blanton's as well on the horsey has a different letter on the bottom foot, and you will then spell out BLANTONS for Blanton's. And once you collect all the horsies, you can then send them back to Buffalo Trace, and they will put them all on a stave for you in the Blanton's order that you can then display for everybody else. Now, working our way up in the Blanton's profile, we've got Blanton's Gold, which is, to me, the best Blanton's you can get. Bottled at 103 proof. It's still that single barrel coming from Warehouse H. You don't know what rick number it's going to be coming from, but I like that 103 proof a lot. It's absolutely delicious. Really, really nice drinking point. I say it all the time on the channel that my favorite proof points are in that 105 to 115, so this is right below it, so I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, gold horsey on top. Same thing. If you collect all the horsies, send them to Buffalo Trace. They will then put them on a stave for you. Now, working your way up in the Blanton's profile, you then have the Blanton's straight from the barrel. So that is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's poured straight out of the barrel. You're getting barrel proof mash bill number 2, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. Really expensive bottles. You can't really find all that often. But yeah, those are your 3 main Blantons. So you guys will see that other Blanton straight from the barrel on the on your screen right now. But moving into other bottles from mash bill number 2, you've got Elmer T. Lee, which is a single barrel bottled at 90 proof. You have your Hancock Reserve, which I believe is bottled at 86.9 proof, and that's also a single barrel. And then you have what I believe to be one of the better 100 proof bottles of bourbons, and that's this one right here. This is the Rock Hill Farms single barrel bourbon from Buffalo Trace. Really, really good stuff. It's not going to be bottled in bond. Why? I'm not quite sure why this is not a bottled in bond bourbon. Probably because that warehouse is not a bonded warehouse, but really, really good bottle in my personal opinion. Really love the design of said bottle. Really nice etching with the horses. One of the more pretty bottles, and inside the bottle is what matters, and it's darn good stuff. So there you guys have it. That is the mash bill number 2. Now, mash bill 2 is going to be their high rye bourbon. So this one is speculated to be 15% of rye or less. So you've got only a couple more percentage points of rye, but it does have an influence on that bourbon. So if you guys have any questions about mash bill 2, throw them down in the comments below. But let's get into the third and final mash bill from Buffalo Trace and their bourbons, and that is their wheated lineup. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are finally on the last mash bill from Buffalo Trace's bourbon lineup, the wheated mash bill. Now, the wheat is going to take over the rye, so this mash bill has no rye grain in it whatsoever. That is going to be consisted of the sweet wheated grain. Now, I've got 5 out of the 6 Weller for the rainbow lineup, and the only one I'm missing is the CYPB, the white label. Starting on the left here, we've got the Weller Special Reserve. This is going to be the green label. This is going to be their 90 proof, lightest, easiest offering in the lineup. Next up, we've got the Weller 12. This is going to be the black label. This is going to be aged 12 years, so you know it's got that age statement to it, and it's also going to be bottled at 90 proof. Next up, we have the Weller Antique 107, the old Weller Antique, one of my absolute favorite bottles of bourbons for sure, bottled at 107 proof. It's the red and gold label, really, really nice proof point. The green label, about 30-35 bucks. The Weller 12 year, about 50-55 bucks. This bad boy right here, 65-70 bucks. I'd go all day at 100 bucks or less on this bottle to just keep it on the bar. It's that darn good. Next up, one of the harder to find Weller bottles is the orange label. This is the single barrel. This one is bottled at 97 proof. It's good. It's not great, not my favorite Weller whatsoever. It does not deserve the high markup that it has. And then next to that, we've got the Weller Full Proof. Now, the Weller Full Proof is bottled at full proof from what that bourbon goes in the barrel at, which is 114 proof. So if it ages in the barrel and it then gets a higher proof, say that barrel comes out at 120 proof, they add enough water to bring it back down to that full proof at 114 proof and bottle it there. So that's going to be the blue label. Really, really good stuff. Now, over here, I've got the 2 harder to find bottles that I own of the wheated mash bill. This one right here is another full proof, but you do get store picks of the full proof, as well as you get store picks of the Antique 107. And then they're also doing now this Special Reserve and Weller 12-year store picks. But this is my store pick that I have as well as another store pick. But these are still going to be bottled at 114 proof. Now, the one thing that people do not know is that all of these Weller lineups, right, also have the exact same mash bill as the Pappy Van Winkle lineup. Now, the one last Weller you need to know about is the William LaRue Weller. That is going to be part of the BTAC collection. We'll see that bottle right here. We just did a review of the 2024. That is going to be the barrel-proof, high-aged William of the Weller lineups. You'll get 12 to 15-year age statements on those with proof points of 120 up to 125, 130 proof. Really, really good bourbon. But I do like my mash bill one better than the wheated when it comes to that. Now, the Pappy Van Winkle lineup, you've got the Old Rip Van Winkle 10-year, the Lot B 12-year, then you have the Pappy Reserve 15, the 20, and then the 23. So there you guys have it. That is going to be all of the information that I have for you about the Buffalo Trace lineup. From Buffalo Trace itself all the way up to the highly coveted and regarded Pappy Van Winkle 23 year. They all come from the same distillery, age different, have some proof point differences and mash bills and things along those lines. But one distillery releases hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of bottles of bourbons a year for you and I to sit back and enjoy. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys drop that like I said, smash that subscribe button, and let me know what you learned down in the comments below. This is a longer video than usual, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But until next time, this has been Nathan with The Everyday Drinker. Cheers.